famous people in my job, first as a broadcaster and then as a university administrator. Pope John Paul II, Billy Graham, Jesse Owens, Muhammad Ali, Lech Walesa, Wynton Marsalis, Ken Burns, and a lot of professional athletes. I've seen in person every U.S. president since John F. Kennedy. When I was in 3rd grade, a student over at Washington School, and JFK came rolling by in a convertible down St. Louis Avenue. And while meeting a lot of famous and wealthy people, I did encounter stories about poverty when I was a newscaster. But since I mostly covered sports and politics, and I was just reading what someone else had given me about the unemployment rate or some program for poverty-stricken people, and I really didn't know very many poor people. Poor and disadvantaged people were fairly invisible to me. Now, in my only paid job, doesn't pay much, not like East Alton, as on the Wood River City Council, I don't hear from the needy. The people who contact me are the business people and just taxpayers in general. So I don't hear from disadvantaged people on a regular basis. They obviously face bigger problems than potholes, snow removal, and barking dogs. However, as a volunteer through my activities with Operation Blessing and First United Methodist Church of East Alton, I've gotten to know a lot of poor people in our area. There's a growing number of people seeking help. And in the past year, 1 of every 4 people in East Alton, 1 of every 6 in Wood River, 1 of every 3 in South Roxana has come to Operation Blessing at least once, and most of them come there every month. National trends show this is becoming the norm. 1 of every 7 Americans is now on food stamps, and the average age of food stamp recipients continues to decline. Middle-aged people with low-wage jobs supplemented with food stamps are the fastest growing group served by food pantries. The amount spent on the federal food stamp program has more than doubled in the last 5 years to $85 billion. And the fastest growing group receiving food stamps, I'm sorry to say, are those with some college education and low-wage jobs. So Reverend Bill Pyatt asked me to pinch it for him today. He's on his way to Vermont. They're visiting their daughter out there. To tell you about a couple of programs we offer at First United Methodist Church of East Alton that help the needy. Serving Area Kids, the acronym is SAC, provides summer lunches for children. During the school year, many poor children in the community receive 2 meals a day at school. They receive breakfast and they receive lunch as well for either no cost or very low cost. That's nearly half of the meals in a typical week if you include the weekends in there. Now, during the summer, let's say you got 4 kids and you got to provide 10 extra meals, 40 extra meals in a month, and that's why food pantries are so busy in the summer and trying to get as many donations as possible to have enough food to serve the clients. This summer, our church is offering free lunches on weekdays. It's a prepackaged lunch, snack, and drink for each child. There's no income requirement because that's the way that the St. Louis Area Food Bank operates. So there's no income requirement at Operation Blessing either. If we accept food from the St. Louis Area Food Bank, we can't ask for proof of income or lack of income. Each child has to pick up his or her own lunch. And programs similar to ours are operating this summer in Alton, Wood River, Hartford, Roxana, and South Roxana. Volunteers arrange to get the lunches together and then give them to the kids. So everything has gone well in these first few weeks of the SAC program. Another program operated by our church is Big Wednesday. It's an after-school program staffed totally by volunteers. It's our privilege to serve 50 to 60 at-risk kindergarten through 5th grade students from East Alton Elementary District 13. We used to include 5th through 8th graders, but the Boys and Girls Club started an after-school program with paid staff, and that allowed us to focus on the younger children. Every week as I leave Big Wednesday, I feel as though I've done something good. Together with adult volunteers and some graduates of the program who are now in middle school or high school, we supply tutoring, recreation, guest speakers, light meals, and transportation home for those who need it. There are conduct codes for the children. Get in trouble once, don't come back next week. Strike 2, you're out for the rest of the school semester. Strike 3, we'll see you next year. And that seems to work pretty well, even if one child gets in trouble, and this doesn't happen very often. One child gets in trouble, the word travels fast. We provide structure. The boys and girls need structure in their lives, and they seem to appreciate the structure we offer. Often their household is a single mother, siblings, and a series of abusive, druggy boyfriends, and they move from place to place until they get evicted. And they're not very good at telling us what the new address is or the new telephone number, so when we try to take these kids home, they have no idea where they live sometimes. It's a real challenge. At one time, 6 of the fathers were in prison. One for sexually abusing his daughters. Now, this story happened several years ago. With more than 1 week remaining in the month, 2 young girls told a volunteer they had no food in the house. They'd already exhausted their food stamps, any other free food they could get, including Operation Blessing. So volunteers gathered several bags of groceries, food from the church food pantry, and we decided to drive the girls home rather than putting them on the church bus with the grocery bags. The college girl who coordinated this asked me to go along because, hey, I know my way around the defense area, what's left of it. And we got to the apartment. There was an extension cord stretching to the neighboring apartment. That was their power supply. When we walked into the apartment, there was a dirt floor. The floor had worn away, and they had replaced it. My primary goal every Wednesday is to serve as a positive role model, to remind them, I grew up in East Alton. I went to the same schools. My dad died when I was a freshman in high school after several years of battling cancer, and so while my mom and I were not poverty-stricken, I was poor enough that when they were handing out these Illinois State Scholar things when we were seniors, most of my friends got a certificate and a handshake. I got a full ride scholarship. That's how poor I was. Admittedly, I had a much better support system than these kids, but I want these boys and girls to know that if they work hard and do well in school, they can break the cycle of poverty. I grew up with kids, much like them. All of us who grew up in East Alton did. And some of them have done quite well. Some of them have become quite successful. Now, there are others we could talk about. We see them in the police blotter or other pages of the paper. Yeah. And, well, we see everybody at Shop and Save, though. But, you know, maybe they dropped out of school, became addicted to drugs and alcohol, or they became involved in crime. What we found is loyalty is a big deal for these Big Wednesday children. As we are loyal to them, they are loyal to us even years later. During the soapbox event, for instance, you may see a lot of kids come over and talk to me during my little breaks between the races. It's more often than not Big Wednesday kids who are coming over to to say hi, or they're standing across the street and waving at me. Or I walk in the Wood River Halloween parade and hand out candy. I'll hear the Big Wednesday kids yelling my name, or some of them will even come out and give me a hug in the middle of the street if they can get out there and get back safely. But they're very loyal, and I appreciate that. And we know the odds are stacked against them, but with the help and support of teachers, coaches, and programs like Big Wednesday and SAC, some of them will have good, productive lives. I'm a realist. Some of the first Big Wednesday kids are now young adults. Some remain on a good track. More than half have graduated from high school. I wish the percentage were higher. Some have gone on to trade school, community college, four-year universities, or the military. Others have already placed some big obstacles in their paths, dropout, crime, and early pregnancies being the most common. The poor may be invisible or nearly invisible to you, much as they formerly were to me. But I urge you to consider ways to help them, individually and as a club. Help them, because they're not going